Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 3 of the Uncommon Family Podcast. My name is Bronson, and on today's episode, my wife and I will be discussing how our marriage has changed since having kids, and knowing what we know now, what would we do differently?
This topic today, I had asked some friends of mine, hey, what is some topics we could talk about? So, this is from your girl Kobe. Shout out to Kobe. She said, talk about how your marriage changed after having kids and what you would do differently now that you have kids, or what you wish you would have known.
So, the first part of it is how
has our marriage changed after having kids?
number one, stressful. I'm just kidding.
No, what is it?
It's more stressful. Don't sleep. You have these little mini bosses running around telling you what to do.
No, but how has your marriage changed after
know.
having kids?
I don't know. I feel like our marriage has grown a lot more.
Should we talk about how it was without kids first?
I guess you can.
I guess prior to having kids, it was just a lot of selfish stuff. Not in a bad way, but like what we would eat out all the time.
Right.
Because
Because it was just us. We just pay for us.
Right.
You know, it's not. It was a party of 2. Now it's a party of 4.
Hey, one doesn't eat.
Well, yeah,
yet, so we still got time to prep.
I feel like the third one is like another one. She eats so much.
What is that called? Yeah, it's funny because we went on a breakfast date, and then we had Uriah with us, and then Bronson was like, well, we don't have our third wheel with us because girl can eat.
Yeah.
But yeah, prior to having kids, we were just living our life, like working a lot, but we didn't really like, I guess I would talk about this afterwards, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, basically we were working a good amount. We just ate out pretty much every time, like every week.
Yeah.
Almost every night, I think, because it was just us.
Yeah.
Our living situation was pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
Like we didn't really stress about bills.
Yeah, because it's like, well, we don't have to buy groceries.
Right.
We just go out to eat.
Yeah.
We paid our bills.
That's it. We would, take trips, drive to like other places.
We would drive. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think,
Not really like.
I think also, I guess to take it a little deeper, like I guess our vision was different.
Because we didn't really have
we didn't
one.
have,
I
we
guess we
basically
can talk
were
about
just
that.
living day to day,
Yeah.
doing whatever we felt like doing. Yeah. I could probably honestly, like during that time too, I feel like our faith walk wasn't as like,
Yeah. Strong.
yeah, I mean, like we weren't really, like compared to now, right? Like we weren't praying as much as we were. We weren't digging into our word as much as we are now.
Yeah. And mind you guys, like we went into our marriage saying, okay, God's going to be at the center.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we were dating though, like we said God would be at the center, which I mean, to an
Like
extent.
when it came to our faith, like
Yeah.
we still would go to church every Sunday. We still,
It wasn't intentional.
yeah. Like I feel like because it was like you said, like it was very selfish. Like we had pretty good like careers, making okay money for just 2 people.
Yeah.
It was very selfish. We were selfish with our money. We would just do whatever, like.
We weren't reckless
I mean,
with our money.
we would pay tithe. We would always tithe our money, but it
we
was
weren't
more so
reckless
like
with it. Like it's
we weren't
not,
we weren't good
you were
stewards.
low-key kind of reckless with money, but I feel
Okay,
like
in different
once-
ways, you were like you would buy food,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
But I'm
That
just
was
saying
also
like,
reckless,
but I'm just saying like we weren't good stewards, not reckless,
Yeah.
but we weren't good stewards of our finances.
we were okay, but
in the sense of
not having a
we could
vision
have
for them.
no, like we could have pretty much saved so much money, invested so much money into things that would benefit us now, where
Especially
we
with
are
our
now.
family.
If we did that back then,
Right.
but we weren't.
Yeah.
We weren't stewarding.
So
it
word
very
to the
well.
wise, you better
Yeah.
listen up for this episode, because if you're planning to have kids,
Especially if you're in your younger 20s.
even way before that though, like
Yeah,
once you
as
hit,
long as you start working,
yeah,
those $220 pairs of shoes aren't worth it.
yeah,
Because
spending
all
like,
those shoes that I had, where are they now? Sitting in my closet.
But he said he could make a return.
Well, technically,
on
I could still sell
investment.
them.
Not them Yeezys. Not anymore, since everybody's not really into Kanye.
I mean, you could still sell them.
Maybe for $50 to $100.
They're in good condition, so I don't worry.
So
I don't even wear them.
Some Yeezys, hit them up, because that can go into our savings. But yeah,
so I wear size 10, just so you know.
We can talk more about that later, like things we would do differently. But how has our marriage changed since we had kids? Because it's very different perspectives. And I know I kind of talked about it initially, but if you want to go first.
Are we going to share from my perspective and then from your perspective, or like?
I guess we'll just go with the flow and see what happens.
I would say for me, what's changed is
Daddy's girl. That's why.
I mean,
well, let's say having one first.
Okay,
initial, like take it back.
So how has our marriage changed?
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, I had to realize, or I had to learn, how to steward my family in a way as for a husband, right? Because in a marriage, when you get married, you and your wife become one. Mm-hmm. When you have kids, now they're just like an addition to you.
That unit.
Right? That unit. But I had to learn the order in which, I run my family, in the sense of, for example, right, when Avea was born, we were working. I think mostly me. I was working.
She was born during the pandemic.
Right. So thank God I was still working, and I think we touched bases on that in the beginning of our first episode. But so I was working. We had a new baby. Obviously, it was a girl. God, felt like I needed to have a girl first, which I'm grateful for.
You wanted a boy first. Oh, God.
No, God. Felt like I needed a girl first, which I believe, I did, because what it taught me was it's taught me a lot of patience. It's taught me
as if I didn't teach you enough patience.
It's taught me more love, I guess. But it's also, I feel like, in the sense, coming back to the sense of having order in my household, was what God showed me is that in marriage, like, I need to take care of my wife and then my kids, right? What I've learned, especially when it comes to being a husband, through searching through the Word, what I felt God has shown me, what I've learned from my pastor, is that when it comes to being a father and being a husband, my first job was a husband. My second was being a father. And I think sometimes, especially when it's your first, that can kind of get a little changed. Because, like for me, I've learned that when Avea was born and I was working, when I would come home, I would want to just spend as much time with her. Because I feel like I just haven't seen her for so long. Yeah. Right? And then after spending time with her, like, my day is already pretty much like coming to an end, tired, just like we're getting ready to like wind down and getting ready to repeat that the next day. But like, obviously through our relationship and from what I've learned, like, it's important that I make time for you as well. And I think in our marriage, like, going through that's what I've learned. That was a huge thing that I've learned, is that I need to take care of my wife first, and then, tend to my kids. Because I mean, what I've learned, especially as being a husband, like, my job isn't just to provide for you guys financially and that's it. That's all I need to do, right? Because I feel like when it comes to the worldly perspective, right, of how a husband should be a provider, it's usually like, oh, they are a provider financially. And in a lot of cases, that's all they think they need to do. Yeah. Right. But I've learned that as a husband, that's not just my only job. My only job isn't just to bring in a paycheck and then I can go home and chill on a couch and just do whatever I want. Yeah. Or, from a worldly perspective of like, come home, have a couple beers, even though I don't drink. I don't like drink. That. Let's just say that. But I'm just saying, like, using that perspective, right? Or that worldview of like how fathers are, right? They just go home, they're tired, they sit on the couch and they have a couple beers. Like, that's
have dinner served to them,
and have dinner's brought to them, and they do it the next day. And I think that's a huge aspect that's missed when it comes to a marriage and parenting, is because your job's not done when you finish when you clock out of work.
Yeah.
Like you come home and you need
Your
to
marriage.
now the work that you're clocking into is your family.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Your
I clock
marriage and your kids.
right. Like I clock out of my job and I clock into, okay, now it's time for me to take care of my family,
Right.
My wife, my kids, which is a huge aspect, I think. Not to like veer off track, but like, yeah, that's a huge role that a husband has in a family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, wives, the way a wife should take care of the home, but it's the husband's job or the father's job to instill the values and principles into your kids,
Right.
and to set the standard for them.
Mm-hmm.
And the wife just supports that
Mm-hmm.
when the husband's not home.
Right.
Right. And I think that's a huge thing that's missed, because it's like, I feel like a lot of men just feel like, oh, I just need to go to work, provide for, at least I'm providing for my kids.
Right.
I pay the bills.
Or like
I
people are
put the
eating,
food on the
right?
table. That's all I need to do.
Yeah.
But no, that's not all they need to do.
Yeah.
And I've learned that through the word. I've learned that through, my pastor, things that, and I think that's really what in my marriage, or I think what has changed in my marriage, especially, is me seeking the word on how to be a better husband, how to be a better parent.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that in today's world is not really being taught. Because I didn't learn that. Like I didn't learn at a young age, or like it took me to become a parent to be like, okay, God, like what do I have to do now?
Right.
Like how am I going to deal with this? How do I deal with this? And it wasn't until seeking Him, seeking church, listening to sermons and learning about a father's role, because one thing that I love that our pastor says, or one thing that that always stuck with me ever since when I came to City Light, because we came to City Light and we were still pretty new in our marriage, pretty new as parents. And the one thing that he said that stuck out to me as a husband is, before a husband can provide for their family financially, you need to provide for your family spiritually.
Yeah.
And to me, I've never heard that.
And it's so crazy how in that season, like, City Light came at such, God's timing, is because, we were still new in our marriage, but we were like almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And then our daughter was less than a year, or about a year. And then our first encounter at that church, it was about relationships, about marriage.
Yeah.
And then so it's kind of like, okay, God, like we know you had us in the right place, you know what I mean? But also having that instilled in us, then we were able to like really cast out a vision for our family, or like even in our marriage.
Yeah.
Do you need to say anything?
I didn't just to touch bases like on, like God has shown me how to appreciate more about, or through having our daughter first, He's shown me like the appreciation of like life. Like, I mean, there were times where I would just catch myself like just like watching her when she was a baby, and just being like, man, God, like you've blessed us with this little child. I don't want to get emotional, but
I know, like,
every time I talk about my daughter, it always happens. But I just never seen myself.
Where's the tissues in here?
Because I've never seen
Y'all need
myself
tissues in
like I haven't seen myself as a father until then, until like she was here.
This is what happens when you become a parent. You'll watch a movie with the kid, and then you'll like
You start crying.
You start thinking about your own kid.
Yeah, and I think
It's okay.
no, and I think like I don't know, like
It's okay.
oh man, this is what being a parent does to you. But
Even though she's a little munchkin.
yeah, even though she can drive you crazy, but I think that's just like God has shown me a new level of love.
Yeah.
Because like I felt the love that He has for me as His child.
Yeah.
But until you actually have your own children,
Yeah.
you'll really understand what that love means.
Yeah.
And it's shown me to like appreciate the life that we have more, like in the sense of like the life that I get to build with you, the life that He's blessed us with.
Yeah.
it's giving me more appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, the beginning of our, like, how it changed our marriage was like pretty much what you said. I just felt like I was being left out of them too, because you would come back from work. So I wasn't technically a stay-at-home mom. I don't know, how would you say this?
You couldn't work. You took like an extended maternity.
Yeah,
leave.
I couldn't work. I was an RN, and then I wanted to build my esthetician business. So I was studying for my boards. I remember I was studying for. I was pregnant during the time I was going to esthetician school. Just before I was supposed to graduate, I gave birth because of the whole pandemic. So yeah, I couldn't work as a nurse because my manager was like, oh, we don't need any per diem nurses right now. So I was at home. And then I guess, like we had mentioned about it, like looking back on it, the reason why I felt the way I did was because I was isolated.
Yeah.
And I felt isolated from not like, well, I'm a homebody in general, but just looking back at it, I was like, dang, that really was a place of isolation, because I really felt like I didn't have anybody. Because I was like, okay, Avea and Bronson have each other in their own little world.
Two peas in a pod.
And it's kind of weird. I felt very weird because unlike what I would see other mothers, and I knew I would be this way just because like how my family is, you know, we're not really attached to our children. Like our children, we love our children. I know my parents love me and my mom loves me, but it's not like I was glued to her hip how other moms. Like, I felt like when I talk about us being parents, I'm like, oh, my husband's so great with our daughter. Or like, you know, yeah, well, our daughter, because you said she's your favorite. But
I did not.
He did. He's lying. But yeah, like you would think as a mom, and that's why I felt so weird, because in the way the world portrays it, like moms have their kids as their everything. And I felt so weird because I was like, I love my daughter. Like, don't get me wrong. But it's not like I felt like I needed to be with her 24/7. I just knew that I had a role of making sure she's alive and she's well taken care of. But I didn't feel like she's my everything in a sense. If I'm not trying to say that to make it sound bad, but I didn't feel like, I don't know, I didn't feel like other moms where they're like, she's my whole world. Like I knew there was life, and then she was placed in our life. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think,
I don't know if that makes sense.
I think, well, because I guess to a degree, right? Like we're blessed to have our kids, right? But it's not like, I don't know how to word it.
It's not like that's. Like the world, life still goes on beyond.
Well, like, not only that, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, because some parents, right, like sometimes they'll put their kids above their spouse. Right. Like anything and everything comes first to their kids before their spouse. Before that order of. And I think that's the type of level that some parents or some mothers might have, but you didn't. Like you didn't have that level. Yeah, and I thought it was
weird because I didn't have that. Not like I knew to put you first also, but I knew like, okay, my husband also has needs. And then, I don't know, I just felt like for that first year of our marriage, I just felt very out of place. I think because, well, one, I wasn't necessarily dealing with postpartum depression, but I feel like I low-key had because I was isolation. Level of it. Yeah, I was in isolation.
Well, yeah, because COVID pretty much, COVID forced us to pretty much stay, in our homes.
And I think that's why I craved to find a church to, like, I didn't see it this way before. But looking back on it now, I feel like that's why I craved going to a church where we can get into community. Yeah. Because, why are you smiling? No, nothing. I think because, I don't know, just so that I could not feel alone, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I knew you guys were there. Like, something so important, or not important, but that stuck out to me today was there's a difference between being alone and isolated. Yeah. So I guess in a sense, so that I don't feel isolated and alone, I was like, okay, we need to find a church. Yeah. Because us doing it online is like not feeding me at all. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I feel like isolation, there's like because like you choose to isolate yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Like you choose to.
And you choose to get yourself out of isolation.
Right.
Yeah.
You can, because like, yeah, there is a difference between being alone, because like you could be in a room full of people and still feel alone.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But like when it comes to isolation, it really is like you're allowing yourself to be away from, others, in community with people.
Yeah.
Away from church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no, I think there was a huge shift in our marriage.
Yeah.
Especially when we first had our daughter, due to us finding a church.
Yeah.
Finding a church who was having in-person services and
Yeah.
who are meeting every Sunday.
Because I feel like since that point, that's when I started to feel less like, because less of my focus was on you and Avea at that point of like always having your time together.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't jealous of you having your time with her, but I guess I felt kind of in a sense like jealous because I was like, well, where do I fit in between, like I was going through so many different things. I was like, well, one, I wanted, like at the time I wanted to have a business. God's like, here, you're pregnant. And I was like, okay, like I just, like even though I had my career of being a nurse, I was like, what do I really want to do with my life? Because being a nurse was picked out for me,
Right.
And I was like, great, now I know what I want to do. I want to be a business owner. I want to go into the beauty, the field of beauty. And then he's like, you're pregnant. So I'm like, okay, now I have this other human being. Like, it's not just myself now. And then, yeah, having Avea. And then I was trying to figure out, okay, being a business owner, and then where do I fit in with my husband and my daughter? Mm-hmm. And like, I'm stuck at home because like I don't have a job, I guess. You know what I mean? So I think that season was like very challenging for me just because I felt like I don't know where I'm supposed to be in this piece. Mm-hmm. And like we didn't have a vision for our family. And I really didn't, like looking back on it, I didn't really have a vision for my business either, or like my life. I just knew that
you didn't want to work for somebody else.
Yeah, I just knew I didn't want to work for somebody else. I knew I wanted to be there for watching Avea grow up, because we would talk about, even when we were dating, like we want to be there for our kids and not have to be, them being like, oh, mom and dad are at work all the time. Obviously,
it's kind of funny though, but like, because a lot of people see that as like, I feel like some people see that perspective in two different ways, right? One perspective is like there's a job that takes you away from your family, right? Where you're no longer able to like be present during certain times of your kids' lives.
Right.
And then there's another aspect of like people who do business.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're like, oh, you're choosing business over.
Right. Because like I feel like when it comes to business, I mean, a lot of people have their different views, but like, yeah, there's a job where you can be in a job that takes you away from your family.
Yeah, because someone else is telling
throughout the week, right? Yeah. Because somebody else tells you. But it's like, if that's all you're going to have the rest of your life, you're going to be stuck in that for the rest of your life. But when somebody goes and actually starts a business, it's like a lot of your time is going to be dedicated to trying to build that business, right? But with that's why. But with the goal that in the future you're not going to be tied down to the time that and you have to put in the beginning.
Right. You choose. No one's telling me take what is that? Take that time away from your daughter.
Right.
I am choosing to do something that in the future when she's 5, or you know what I mean? Like I've been able to be there for her and the time that I wasn't there because I was doing business, I chose that.
Right.
Because in the future, I have been able to spend 3 years without having a boss tell me, hey, you can't, you have to be here. You can't be at home.
Or you can't take that week off to go to, California for your daughter's birthday or something.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the difference. I feel like for me, it's like, because like, yeah, even in my business or in our business, right, we can still, it takes a lot of our time, but it's like we can still have her with us.
Yeah, that's what I love. Like,
like she can still be with us in the office, and be in the environment,
right.
and in an environment that she gets to see as like, wow, like, you know, she's around people who think bigger, you know, who think outside the box, who think like, oh, like you can go out and do whatever it is you want. You can achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. And having her in that environment, to me, is way better than her being stuck at home and me being stuck in an office job, you know, from, you know, whatever, 9 to 5. And, you know, being taken away from her where she's just like,
it's very different.
Home, even though, like at the time she can be at the office, but I'll be busy with like a client or I'll be doing like a training, but she still gets to be in an environment. She gets to see like, oh, this is what mommy and daddy does.
Like, I remember, I tell the people this story all the time. Like, she was telling her uncle, she was on the stairs and her uncle's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm having a meeting.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And she's like pretending she's on like the computer. Yeah. But she was only like 2 years old.
Right.
Or
and
little older than 2.
That's something she saw us doing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I think that, the benefit of that is like, they get to also learn. Right. By the example that we set.
Right. I mean, that's how I was.
Yeah.
I remember going on, like, my mom, she worked a lot, but then when she was finally like self-employed 100%, she took me to her appointments.
Right.
So even though she was working, I was alongside her. And what the effects of that was, I knew that I wanted to be a businesswoman because I would have control of my time.
Right.
And like with Avea, I can't take her into the spa room. But if I'm gone, it's only for a few hours. Oh, yeah. It's not my whole day is gone and then I come back and I'm exhausted to spend time with my daughter.
Right.
You know, I still have that time to play with her.
Right.
And then like with our other business, she's included in everything. She comes to the office.
She's everybody's favorite.
She lives her life in the office.
She's like the most popular one.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much value in that.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, I don't know, for me, it's like I look at it as, well, she gets to see the things that we get to accomplish, you know, like even like when we have the events for our company and it's just like her being able to be there and experience walking on the stage and seeing all the people cheer, like she gets to experience that. And it's like, there's so much value in that because when it comes to becoming a parent, right. And I think like, sorry to go off like on a tangent, but it's just so like for me, I don't know, I look at it as because like, you know, being a father, like one thing that I've heard that was told to me in business or that I'm pretty sure you were there too, by somebody who said, you know, when somebody asks like your child, when somebody asks them like, oh, who's your hero? You know, what would you want them to say?
Right.
Like, would you expect them to say like, oh, Superman or like some of these like, you know, fictional characters? Or would you want them to say, oh, my mommy and daddy is my hero?
Right. You know what's kind of crazy is because, well, I mean, growing up, who would you say, would you have your parents be your hero or would you really have picked another
Oh, like if somebody asked me?
Yeah. When you were younger.
I mean, when I was younger, sure, I probably would have said like Superman or something.
What's funny is because we grew up very different.
Yeah.
And your family raised you well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in your faith and everything.
No, yeah, of course.
But what's kind of funny is I actually have several articles, you know, because they make you write stuff, right? And my actual, like, I have it framed and everything. So my actual hero was either my grandma or my mom. Just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then just thinking about how they talk to us about who would you want as your hero. I'm just like, dang, that's so true though. Because a lot of the things that I learned, obviously, is from my mother's good and bad. Yeah. And I'm working on some things that I need to break off as, you know.
Right.
But just looking back on that was, I actually did. And the reason why I would say, my grandma was because she helped raise me. But she's also the woman who set the pace for other women in our family to be strong-willed, to be business women. So it's kind of crazy.
To go out there and accomplish.
It would either be my mom, my sister, or my grandma. And these are because they're women who I see, you know, who are strong-willed, but also
they've done things in their life. Yeah, they've led by an example that you looked up to.
And they're not perfect.
Right.
I think that's what makes me see them as heroes is because they've made something of themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that ties into like, yeah, like when I was asked that question, or when that question was asked to the group that I was with,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it really makes you think like, what are you doing? Right. What are you doing? How are you living your life? As an example to your kids, for them to even look at you and consider you the hero of their lives.
Yeah. And go home and ask Bea, who's your hero? Just curious. I feel like she would say probably mommy and daddy though.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because of her demeanor too though. Yeah, so like I'm very strong in whether it's like our business partners when they say like, oh, I don't, I have time to balance. And, they're like, how do you guys balance your kids and your business? It's like, you're the perfect example for your kids, though, for them to be able to think beyond this is all that you can do.
Yeah.
I especially believe because we're God's children, like, we're not meant to be mediocre.
Right.
There's a difference between having intentions of doing a business because you're money hungry and you want to do selfish things with your money.
It's all about the like your heart motive, right? What is
your heart posture, right?
Yeah.
Because money is a tool in order to expand the kingdom and to serve other people and to be able to help other people. Money needs to be involved. You know what I mean? For the most part, time.
Not everything is free.
Yeah. But if you want to make a difference in a huge way, yes, your time is important, but sometimes you can't even give your time because you're tied to a job.
Yeah.
So what? Money too, because you use it as a tool.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we've learned too, I think, when it comes to having a family is like how to steward our finances better.
Yeah.
Because like we said,
I think that's like going into, sorry, we kind of went on a tangent, but like, like what would you do differently now that you have kids or wish you would have known? For me, especially knowing now what it entails having, like, Avea is still little, but girl can eat. But especially with our goals now, like our vision now, like I never had a vision of us owning a home really. Like not like I was comfortable in the home that we have now. So my parents had handed down a home to us pretty much to take care of. So not like I was settling, like I knew we would eventually have our own home, but it wasn't a vision I had like, oh, we should have our own home. But like now I'm like, yeah, I would love for us to have our own home aside from the home that mom and dad left, for us to eventually, for the kids to have. Right. But I think things that I would have done differently was more so financially. Yeah. Instead, not saying don't enjoy your money, but steward it well.
Right. That's the biggest thing. It's just storing it well.
Like they say kids are expensive. Yeah, they're expensive, but so is life in general.
Right.
With inflation and everything. Like to live is already costly.
Oh, yeah. Because I definitely now, like knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
I do believe that there is definitely abundance even if you're not making like millions of dollars. Yeah, it's just, it really just comes down to how you're stewarding it, and like, that's the one thing that I've learned because it's like, I don't know, like I've always heard people say like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that because of like, because they have a family or it's like, because I have all these kids. Right. But it's like, no, it's just,
sometimes it's just how they steward their money.
Steward your money, the decisions you make with your money.
Yeah.
Like one thing that we always say, if it's important, if it's important to you, you're going to make it happen. Right. You're going to do what you need to do whatever it is, if it's important to you. Yeah. And if like, the finances for your family, like for your kids, like if that's an important thing, then you're going to steward accordingly. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that we've learned. Since having them, because obviously like we said before them, it was just selfish. We were just enjoying the finances that we were making, or the money that we were making, and like just going out and eating all the time. I feel like that's all we spent our money on,
which isn't bad, food. But in a sense, like it was like we really didn't need to spend money. But I mean, granted, our first place was a studio. We didn't have like a real kitchen, so I guess.
Yeah, but still.
We still could have we didn't have a vision. So that's something that we could have done differently, is if we had, or we were able to go back, then it was just having a vision for our family.
Yeah.
And by vision, I mean, like, that entails everything, like how you store your finances, what you choose, like what your goals are for your family, you know?
Yeah.
I think when we first got married, we had our kid, or we had Avea. I was just like, okay, just make sure she's healthy and that she has a roof over her head. She's well fed. You know what I mean? But again, that's like going through the motions, right? That's like living day to day is okay, just making sure you're fed and you have a roof over your head.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad, but it's good to have a vision,
Right.
like with the direction your family is going to go into as they get older.
Like basically, like, what do you want for, like, what else do you want for your kids?
Right.
You know, like, yeah, you want, you know, whether it comes down to like the type of school they want to go to, you want them to go to.
Because then you can store your money, your finances,
Right.
in order to
You know.
provide that. Like if it is private school, you'll
Right.
have the finances for them too.
Right. And that's a part of having that vision.
Yeah.
Because I think there's so much that we know now because we have a vision of what we want for our family. We didn't have it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. We were still kind of just figuring this thing out.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't say we're like struggling, but it is a bit harder because we didn't have that vision to now kind of like catch up, right?
right.
To be like, we do want to put our daughter in private school now. All that money that we blew on food could have gone to her tuition.
Yeah.
But of course, we do have time for that, and we're praying for City Light School because we definitely would want to send her there.
Right.
But
I think it's just like, knowing like how would we do things differently. Yeah, obviously when it comes to finances, because again, we didn't really plan for her.
yeah,
You know.
that's another thing. I think. I mean, you can't plan when you have kids, but at least
You can somewhat prepare.
you can prepare.
You know,
yeah.
you can have that, little
Both
savings
of our kids
bucket.
were oops kids, but we knew we wanted kids.
Right.
But I think if parents can prepare or future parents can prepare, so it would be financially, like have something on the side
Right.
for that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I guess, because I think we talk more so about financially because we're in the financial business, right?
Yeah.
So it's like when now the way we look at things, right? When you look at a foundation, you want to have a strong foundation financially.
Yeah.
Before
it's
you do
so
anything,
important.
like
Yeah.
before you buy a house, before you invest,
Yeah,
like,
because what? They say more money, more problems.
Yeah.
That money causes stress. Yeah, if you don't steward it correctly.
Right.
I think that's the angle we're coming from, is because money isn't everything, yet it can make or break.
well, it affects a lot of other areas in
does,
your
divorce
household.
is
Yeah.
what? Cause number one thing is
Just finances. Yep.
And you know what I mean? Like finances can cause a lot of stress on people,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be not completely avoided, but it can be lessened
Right.
if there's a vision and if
you
there's
steward
a
it
way
well.
to steward it correctly.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not saying don't go out to eat, don't
Yeah.
enjoy your money. Of course,
But
you
be
still
smart,
want to enjoy,
right? Like,
but
okay, if you eat once a week, right? You go out once a week, enjoy date night together.
yes, definitely
That doesn't mean
date
going
your
out every
spouse.
single day.
Yeah,
right?
like we would. I could easily spend $50 to $100 because
in one meal,
in
sitting,
one meal. Yeah.
one sitting, like,
Yeah. I went
It's
back on
crazy.
it. So we're in the financial service industry. And so I went back on it and I calculated, like, okay, when I was 24, blowing money on food, like $100, let's say just $100 a week. At 33, I would have had like 40 grand extra if I had put it into my IUL. But you live, you learn. And this is why we do this episode, because we're just sharing what we would have done differently.
But yeah, number one is like, if you're building your house, right?
Yeah.
Or your financial house, like
Yeah.
that strong foundation financially, right? Then you work on the savings.
Yeah.
Because I feel like really what we've learned through meeting a lot of people, they do things very backwards,
Yeah.
right? They do
Oh, yeah.
things the opposite.
Because we're very live in the moment.
And it's like, okay,
Which
it's
I
like,
agree.
no,
I-
it is
I think-
because it's more so of like, it's more so of a desire, right? Especially for younger couples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Younger married couples, like a lot of the desire is they want to have their own place, right? They want to own their own house. before they even before they even focus on anything else. Like, yeah, they may work on a saving specifically to buy a house, but it's like after that, like that's all they've built up just for that house. But man, with the house we know now, taking over your parents, like how much that entails.
Yeah,
people don't realize like people don't realize how much what it entails of like owning a home, the upkeep of the home. Which, like
owning a home, I think, is, if that's your priority, then obviously save for it. And it's not bad to have a home, but it's just like stewarding. But like, you want to steward everything, not just like that. Like, we're just saving up for a home. Well, you have to remember, homes come with repairs,
mortgage. You don't have just a mortgage, but you have utilities.
Your homeowner's insurance. Oh Lord!
Because people, if you
buy a home that has a leaky roof.
Oh my god!
Because you didn't, your what is that?
Previous people who installed the roof, they didn't do it correctly.
No, or like when you do your home inspection, but like they didn't catch that. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's why it's like. Yeah, like you may have the down payment on the home and, the mortgage is okay, your monthly payment, but then like they don't account like everything else that comes along with that.
Yeah.
But I think, when it comes to what we know now, it's like, we should have had our foundation, our financial foundation more set. Yeah. I think it was somewhat there, but again, like we weren't stewarding it well. Like we could have had a really strong foundation if we stewarded our finances better. Yeah. Putting it in places where we should have put it.
Investments.
We would have been, we would have been way better, or like not better, but we would have been more ahead.
Yeah, especially when it comes to having kids. Yeah. Because again, like I think the thing is, when it comes to kids, you don't want to just think about it day by day. Because now you have another human. Like, you don't want to stress out, like, can I go buy diapers for the kid?
Oh, yeah.
Or milk, you know what I mean? So if you can get ahead financially.
Right.
And people don't know an exact date of when they're going to have kids.
No, trust me, kids are expensive. So,
but.
Like, yeah.
But at least that's the thing. If you want to have kids, then start to steward something towards that too. Right. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think for that. Right, because another thing that we've learned is like when it comes to our kids, like it really is our duty, right? It is our job to also steward them, right? Yeah. Steward them in a way that, not saying like I'm not trying to compare them to money, but like we steward our kids on. How we raise them.
Yeah.
The standard we set for them, the boundaries we set for them.
Right. Oh, that's another thing too, though. Like, to go on, things that we would do differently. I think I know we have boundaries, but I think maybe having really set those boundaries and then letting our family in the beginning, way ahead.
Yeah.
Like, letting them know ahead of time versus...
Well, because I think in our case, we've learned that we needed boundaries as we went along, right? In the beginning, we're still kind of like new parent. Like, I think that's why... And
especially from families where we probably don't have boundaries. I didn't have boundaries as a kid.
Oh, no,
My mom was like, you're good. You can, I mean, there were things that they were like, oh, no, don't do that.
Right.
But certain things, like, the way we ate, like fast food and junks.
Again, food was very different back then than it is now.
So having those boundaries.
No, I think that's something that now we know now, right? Yeah. We know those boundaries. Like, that's something we probably would have done different is we would probably express those boundaries to our family sooner. Nothing bad, right? Nothing bad, but in the sense of like, the way we want them to like learn certain things.
Yeah, like having everything uniform. Like if you are going to have, obviously grandparents, aunts, uncles who are always going to want to spoil your kids.
Right.
That's...
But there's nothing wrong with, so there's like a different level to spoiling, right? There's nothing wrong with like, they want to get them something to enjoy, right? Whether it's food, a toy, anything, right? That's fine. Mm-hmm. But there's an excessiveness to it when it comes to like, not an excessiveness, but I guess there's a boundary when it comes to like, her thinking that, oh, my, grandma or my uncle, my auntie will get me this, that if I just go over there and I'll tell them, hey, I want this.
Yeah.
And you just give it to her.
Yeah.
Right. That's where the boundary needs to be set, because it's like, number one, she's the child.
Yeah.
Right. Even if she throws a fit, even because knowing her, right. Trust me, our daughter's very manipulative. Like she knows how to work people.
Yeah.
She's very smart for her age, even though she's only 3, or she's a 3-nager, right? Yeah. But that's really where the boundary comes, right? Even if she throws a fit, even if she starts like, crying, like as the adult, you need to be the one that tells her no. And that's no is no, right? Even if she starts throwing a fit. Yeah. And I think that's the standard that we talk about, right? The standard that it's fine to let her enjoy once in a while.
Yeah. But right? Just making sure she doesn't rule.
But her knowing that, like, because she's a child, she's knowing that, okay, like, my family, my auntie, my uncle, whoever, my grandma will get me this, my papa will get me this, or he'll let me have this. Like, she's gonna go within the mindset of like, oh, all I just have to go over there and ask for it. Yeah, ask for it. Maybe throw a little tantrum. Like, she's in that mindset, right? She's planning. Like, I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna, ask,
she definitely
Auntie and Uncle for this.
She can.
If there's a little resistance, I'm just gonna have to throw a little tantrum for maybe 5 minutes, and they'll eventually give in to me, right? Yeah. And that's really where the boundary comes. Yeah. So,
but I think if we had set a standard with every household, right?
Oh, trust me, we would go to pick her up from my parents' house and she would have something new. I'm like, oh, nice. Where'd you get this? Grandma bought it for me. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, like I've had to tell my sister on some occasions, like, hey, don't get a toy at the store. And it wasn't because I don't want her to spoil her niece, but it was more so, hey, she wasn't acting nice, right? So no toy. So then my sister was like, you heard that, Avea? No toy. And it's okay, because I'm like, you can say mommy said no toy because you were acting up, right? Because then that's the reinforcement, right? She's like, okay, I wasn't acting good, right? I don't get toys when I don't act good. So I think having that straight for every family or every person who watches the kid to be on board, because it's hard to keep a standard or keep a boundary if only one reinforcement
it's only,
and it's the same with parents too.
I
think that's the thing, is the number one thing is, as parents, like, I think that's another thing we would say is we weren't always on board with everything, but that's why you talk together about it. Yeah,
just like in the way you discipline them.
And with other things,
the standard that we do set for them, right? Like, that's something we both talked about. Yeah. Because it really comes down, like, because it is our job, right? We are the parents. Yeah. My mom isn't her parent. My in-laws, they're not her parent. We are the parent. Yeah. So it's our job to make sure that we steward everything that goes on in her life. Yeah. Because until she becomes an adult, obviously, right?
Then she can make her own decisions.
But it's like, as long as she's a child under our care, it is our job to steward whatever goes on in her life. Right. And it really does make a difference when there is a standard that is set around your kids' lives. Yeah. Amongst all family members who, are involved in her life or in their life. Yeah. Because it really makes things...
Family members or whoever, if that happens to be a friend who takes care of your kid, then... But it's just like
making sure that it's uniform, because it does...
It's like a team, right?
Yeah, and it does, because we've seen, obviously, the effects, right? Because obviously when she would come back to us... She's a whole different person, Lord. She's a whole different child.
And then it takes like a few days to like get her back to be like, this is what mommy and daddy said.
And like, we obviously know, right? Because that's what, she wouldn't be like, acting a certain way. Yeah. But in a way, it's like, it's our job though. It's hard for us to get upset, because it's like, we need to be the ones to set that boundary for her, because she's only doing what she's allowed to do, or what people are allowing. Yeah. And to a child, what is like, she's like, okay, know? Like this is, she's not going to know what that standard is if it's not enforced. Right.
But also, just bringing it back, it's like, okay, as parents too, you have to be on the same page. Like, I know there are things that you would enforce, and because you're with her more, or at least in the beginning of our marriage, that I was like, hey, wait, what is that? So at least I know to enforce it too.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's that communicating, right?
Yeah,
just
making
like with
sure
marriage, communicating.
Yeah, especially when it comes
with
to your
the
kids.
kids. Yeah.
Because it makes parenting a little bit easier.
What's kind of crazy too is like even with school. So I'm a contracted nurse for a certain school here in the Valley, and they actually do have a communication log between the teacher and parent. So just thinking about that, it's like they're also involved, right? So yeah, it's kind of just looking back on it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool that the school, like I just thought, I was like, oh yeah, communication log, like they're telling the parent what went down in school. But now I'm like, oh wow, so it's a special needs behavior school. So they're communicating with the parent like, hey, this is how your son, your daughter did today. We're working on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, like communication is important also when it comes to kiddos. Yeah.
No, that's definitely important.
I'm just looking at, and then, what you wish you would have known, what you would do differently now, and how the marriage has changed. So, question, because now we have Uriah. I've heard parents always say like, oh, kids are so different. Like, each one is different. But how do you think our marriage has changed after you got like having Avea for 3 years, having some experience with having a kid? How has it changed for having now a newborn for our marriage? And then what do you think we've different now being a parent?
I mean, obviously now, like when he gets to the age, like obviously having a standard for him too.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something we didn't have for Avea in like the beginning parts of her life, right? Because we just still like figuring things out.
Too, right?
We're also learning how to be parents.
But I think also now our family knows like, okay, well, at least I would think they would know like, okay, well, there's a standard for Avea, and so we have to follow with that. Well,
because I think so. For me, like one thing that I think that I've learned with Avea is being more present in certain parts of like her life, in the sense of like, not we were present, but I mean like in being a lot there for her. In a lot more
emotionally and like
more emotionally, and like also things that we allow like, in her life, because I think to a certain extent we were pretty good with her, like especially when it comes to things that she watches as a little kid, right? I mean, in today's generation there's like so much technology, right? And I mean, we were, not to say we're parents who just like left her, gave her a screen and just let her be. Like that's not who we were. Like we were actually on the opposite, right? We kind of limited what she would watch.
But she doesn't even care to be.
But I think there's a lot of things that, in the sense of being more, I guess, like, I don't know what that word is. I guess, just involved? more involved, more present with like certain things that she is in, right? To the extent of like, okay, I don't know, I'm trying to use an example. Like, or like shows, right? Let's just use a show for example. I mean, if you're a parent, you're going to know these shows, but like when, she started watching Masha and the Bear or whatever. So
you know what's funny? My so we stopped letting her watch that because my sister was like, oh, she's a naughty little girl. And like we agreed, like she's very naughty, and my daughter was catching on to the naughtiness. My coworker, she was like, oh, Masha's a good show, and I'm like, we don't let our daughter watch Masha. And she goes, well, she also has life lessons of the consequences of things. And I'm like, well, our daughter is not catching on to the consequences of things. She's only catching on to the naughty part. And she's like, oh, okay, then I would definitely limit her watching that. But no,
I mean, there is, but it's like when you're, see, like as an adult, you're going to see the consequences and be like, oh yeah,
but not a kid.
But not a kid. Yeah, a kid's not going to catch on to that.
Like a 3-year-old, no, she's not going to know like, oh, that's not a nice thing to do. I'm not going to do that. She's going to see like, hi, she was having fun.
Because her mind is still like so like fresh. Like they're just gonna pick up. Yeah, they're just gonna pick up on anything that they're listening and learning,
or that entertains them.
Yeah, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah,
and I think that was a huge thing. Yeah, we cut out a lot of stuff. I mean, it's not like we watched. Yeah, not like we watched.
It's not like we're crazy Christian parents. Like, oh, our kids,
right?
Like we don't let her be exposed to like certain like realities of things. Right.
No, but it's like it's us as parents of knowing, okay, what we're allowing into her mind. You know, what we're allowing to influence her.
Yeah.
Right, because there's so much things out there that kids can get access to or exposed to. That isn't good. Like
when she's like with the kids' YouTube, like there are certain adult things that sneak through.
Oh yeah.
And when she gets a hold of it, we tell her, "Hey, you can't watch this," and we tell her why. It's not like we tell her, "No, you can't watch this. It's bad." We tell her why. Like when she gets disciplined, we tell her why she's getting a spanking. It's not like you were bad, that's why we spanked you. Right. We tell her so that she can learn and she knows this is this is what happened because I did this. Yeah,
there's a lot of things that there's just a lot of things we learn as parents on how to like handle kids or like our kids.
Yeah.
Because it's just the way we talk to them, the way we approach certain things, right? Like we know kids up until a certain age, they're still trying to deal with their emotions, right? And it's like it's just the way we talk to them. And I think that's something that we've learned a lot when it comes to the language we speak to our kids.
Yeah.
And the language that we speak to each other around our kids.
Yeah. We're very careful. I mean, we don't even swear in general, but like I know the way that we talk to each other and the way that we communicate with Avea and soon to be Uriah is we're very cautious.
Yeah. Like, just the type of words. Like, it's just like little words, right? Like instead of saying, oh, like I'll try. Or
we tell her like, no, you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's either yes or no.
And it's not like we're being like, you can do it. Don't say, you're a quitter or whatever. But it's like we're trying to mold her or implement in her mind that she is capable of doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's certain words that we don't allow her to speak because we don't want her to implant that in her brain.
Right.
Yeah. Like when she gets frustrated easily, like me. That's just something in our family.
It's just like saying, I can't.
And she's like, and she hasn't even tried it yet.
Right.
So we tell her, baby, you didn't even try it yet. You need to try to do it. And then we show her, we like help her, and then we allow her to do it. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I can do it. You know, and we're like, we don't allow her to say the word, I can't do it. Or, I don't know, there's so many other things. Yeah. Like we catch on to it real quick and we say, honey, no. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's something we've learned. And when it comes to Uriah, like those are the things we get to like implement.
Yeah.
When he's younger. That we didn't really get to implement as young as when Avea was born,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know if it's affected me like in a personal sense. It's more so like Avea was kind of like the first.
The guinea pig?
In a way.
Well, of course, because she's the first kid.
In a way. And then like with him, it's just more like, oh, like we know now.
Yeah. Or I still feel like it's a learning experience though. Well, for me anyway.
I mean, maybe because I was with her more when she was younger compared to like now you're with Uriah more.
Yeah. Or like even with Avea, like I've learned, obviously, even though I'm not the mother who is like hip to hip with my kids, I have learned to enjoy life in a sense of like Avea is a breath of life, right? Like a breath of fresh air. Like she has shown me like you need to live a little and like everything isn't so serious.
Right.
Like she makes me realize like you have to be able to enjoy the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as much as now I'm gonna start crying. As much as like we have our role to play as adults, you need to take the time to just have fun with your kids.
Yeah.
Like to do something silly, even if it's just to watch, like just to read her a story because
or
she's
tell
like,
her a story.
Yeah. Because she's bugging you or she wants to tell you a story or like just taking the time to watch a movie with her.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's what I've learned, is to like really enjoy that moment, because we won't get it again.
Yeah. She won't always be 3.
Right. Like, as much as she drives me nuts sometimes because we're very much alike, like I still enjoy the time. I still try to enjoy, like, it's funny. So I don't think people understand this because Bronson thinks it's so weird, but like me and Abea growl at each other. And it's a thing that we have.
Yeah.
And like, we just laugh about it. I'm sure people are like, what the heck? Are you like, I'm pretty sure my mom's like, is your daughter, like, are you growling at each other? Like, because my mom's very like, oh, don't do that to your mom. But then that's just something like, you know, like an inside joke. That's what me and Avea have together, is like growling at each other. Which I know she learned from me.
Yeah.
But it's just something funny and silly that we do.
Yeah.
And then like with Uriah now, especially working and having my business, I learned to appreciate the time that I have with my kids. Because I think that's something you called me out on, is when it's family time, it's family time. Because I didn't know the boundaries, because when it came to, I mean, I grew up very blessed, but I didn't know that there were boundaries for, you have your business and then you have your time with your family.
Right.
So you called me out. Like, I was on my phone, and yeah, it's not bad building a business. It's not bad doing things for your business. But when it's family time, you need to be there present for your family.
Yeah.
And I think over time, that's very early on in Avea's life, that's what I learned, is you have your time with your family and you have to honor that time with your family. So with Uriah, I do take the time to like play with him or like spend time with him, you know. And with Avea too, it's like taking that time to just be with them.
Right.
That, yeah, I have my business and I have my work, but in the end, I'm still a mom. Like being a mom comes before me having my job and my business.
Right.
Like, it's my husband, it's my kids, and then
everything else.
Yeah.
And I think really, all honesty, like, kids just want your attention when they want it.
Right.
Right. And I think like a lot of people think like, oh, I need to be with them like 24/7 or so many times. It's just when they want your attention.
Like Avea,
that's when you just give them
there
attention.
are times Avea, I'm like, Avea, you want to cuddle? She's like, no, I'm doing this. And I'm like, okay, girl.
Oh yeah, sometimes they don't want to hang out with you. And that's fine. But it's just,
but when she wants my attention, she will do everything that she can to get our attention.
Right.
So it's like knowing you need to give that attention to your kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's really all they're looking for. So
do you think, how has our marriage been different this time around? Because I have to say, I don't feel it's very different in a sense of like, you know how I felt initially when Avea was born. I think now, not just because we have a son, he's my little baby, but
he's your mini me.
But I think,
no, we're just laughing because I feel like he just, whenever he's with me, he just wants to throw a fit and
a ruckus.
Yeah,
and then with me, he's like a little angel. I'm like, what are you talking about? He was crying all day. He's just laying down.
Yeah,
but
no. Not when he's with me.
But I think our marriage, knowing what we know now, the feelings at least that I've had the first time around is very different.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have to fight for my time with you. And this time around, I feel like, not that I'm attached to the hip to Avea and Uriah, but I know to prioritize my time with them. And then I think it helped a lot. It helps a lot that we have our group of friends and our community.
Yeah.
So that I don't feel like that way. Because there was a time, I'll be honest, like, I think when Uriah was first born, like the first few weeks, and it was actually the night that we were supposed to, that we did end up coming, but that night with Tuesday nights pod, where everybody was invited, I didn't want to go. And I was going back to the beginning of like that isolation, and I was like, I don't want to go. But then obviously the Holy Spirit speaks to you, right? And it was like, go, like, and I think from that obedience, if I didn't listen to the Holy Spirit, that cycle of being in isolation probably would have repeated itself. Even though we're in a church and whatever, our environment's different. But yeah, I feel like listening to that prompting led up to us here, obviously here,
Mm-hmm.
but me not repeating, because they say history repeats itself. It does if you allow it.
Right.
So I feel like not listening to myself of like, I want to just soak it. I was tired. I think I was like tired from work.
Mm-hmm.
And like again, like from with Avea, like doing my business, working, and I just wanted, and then having a newborn, I was like, I just want time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I just wanted to isolate myself.
Mm-hmm.
So not doing that has led up to a point of me having a community of women too. They're not mothers, but I still feel very much fed and not alone or isolated than I did initially, you know? So yeah.
That's good. I mean, that was kind of a lot of information within maybe an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we answered your question, Kobe.
I think we're gonna see a little Kobe and E soon. That's why the question was asked.
Oh, maybe.
We have like this little, so out of our friends, we're the only parents. And we don't, we're not the type to push like our friends having kids and stuff, but we do talk about like how fun it will be once they do have kids. So yeah, we'll see who's gonna have kids first.
Right.
Just the married ones though.
Yeah.
We don't condone having kids outside of marriage. It happens, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No. So I mean, that was a really good question, and
yeah.
Even now, I feel like even now we're still learning so much as parents.
Oh yeah. I just can't wait. I mean, I can wait, but I just can't wait for Uriah to get a little bit older to see how him and Avea interact, because Avea is so very loving towards her brother, but she also knows that now there's another kid and she has to like claim her time or like share her time. But yeah, I just see her being so like bossy but loving towards her brother.
Yeah, I mean, just knowing her,
like a little mom.
Yeah, just knowing the way she is, but yeah. She's loving now.
I think she will be very loving.
No, she still will be, but it'll be like
with
you said,
it'll be sass.
It'll be fun to see how they
grow up
together. Yeah. And maybe by that time we'll have number 3. I'm just kidding.
We'll see. We gotta give them some time.
Yeah.
At least when Uriah's potty trained.
Right. But yeah.
So if he can do that by before one, at least one, then we'll see.
So I guess to conclude, basically, your life will change once you have kids.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
They're such they are blessings.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They teach you a lot of lessons that you don't even like. I think I mentioned this in the first episode. Like, if I honestly believe if it wasn't for Avea being born, because like I said, she wasn't planned. I know God would have worked to like. God would have worked in our lives somehow, being married, but I feel like it was orchestrated perfectly the way it's supposed to.
She definitely did come at like the right time.
Yeah.
Because that's really what like led to a lot of things that I felt God needed us to go into. And
like they say, like there's certain things that happen in our life to give us a push, and it so happened that our daughter was born in order for us to really
God literally was
be
like
in God's will.
Yeah, because he was like, y'all are too selfish right now.
Not in a bad way, but
you guys are only focused on yourselves, and that's not, which isn't bad, but to an extent.
But I think it gave us that push of seeking a church and like then getting into community. Like,
Yeah, so kids are great. We love our kids for sure, even though they drive us crazy.
10 out of 10 recommend having them and the process of having them. No, I'm just kidding.
When you're married.
When you're married.
But yeah, that was a good question. So we might have more. We might have more topics on kids as we grow in our parenting and marriage. Obviously, there's still a lot for us to go through, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've only been married for like 5 years. 5 years,
which is that's a long time. Yeah. That's more than some. So
right. So sad though, just thinking of it. But yeah.
I mean, parents obviously. Yeah, we've only been parents for 3 years so far.
Going on 4.
Going on 4.
That's so crazy though. It went by so fast. Like Avea is still like a little girl to me.
She is a little girl.
No, yeah,
but sometimes we forget that she's a little girl, and we think that
no,
she's
but
like
what
this...
I mean is like sometimes I'm like, dang, you're still 3. Like I think you're yeah, you'd think you're 13, but
no, we think she is, but we forget to realize she's only 3, just because the way she is, like the way she carries herself, the way she like, she's very mature for her age. That's for sure.
I just feel like you should FaceTime Dad and just ask Avea, like, get it on camera. Who's your hero?
I don't know if she knows what that means though.
Yeah, she does.
She does?
I feel like she's gonna say a princess though. Should I ask?
I don't know. Maybe. You can.
We're just gonna, I mean, we'll see if this fits through with our video. But just so we can get it on camera. Who should we call, Dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can probably FaceTime him. He will answer.
Here. Can you do it?
Oh, why you want me? You can all that.
No, ask to talk to Avea.
Oh.
You might not answer if it's not your phone.
Dad. Hey, is Avea with you? Oh. Hi, babe. Hey, look.
Hi, honey. Hi, baby.
Mommy wants to ask you something.
Hi, mom. In the background.
Yeah.
He's not here right now. I think he's at his house, honey. Avea, I have a question. What? Who's your hero? Brother. He's so cute and tiny. Okay, honey. Love you. See you soon. Mwah.
No. Okay. We're at Uncle Austin's house.
We'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon, okay? Okay, love you. All right. Okay, see you guys. Yep.
Well, I guess her brother is her hero.
I told you she's not going to know what hero is. I don't think she understands what a hero is yet.
Until she sees it, she's going to be like, you, mommy. But then, yeah, anyways. But yeah.
Yeah, she's still learning a lot of things.
Yeah. Especially
her alphabet that she keeps calling numbers.
Yeah. But yeah, this concludes our episode, guys.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed.
Thank you for the question, Kobe. Yeah. There were some things that I learned about you, like, throughout the episode. I think we always learn about something. Huh?
What do you mean you learned?
Oh, like your viewpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
if you have any questions that you might, want answered or just curious.
Yep.
Yeah. Message, comment.
Yeah. But thank you guys for joining us. Maybe you guys learned something new about us.
I'm sure, because most of them probably don't even know us.
Yeah.
Yet.
But all right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.